My guest today is the master admin of the upcoming TrackMania Masters Team Cup, the first team event of the year. What can we expect from that event? Who are the favorites, and what is going behind the scenes for that event? But as always, the most important question of them all, Axel Alex, how are you, man?
Yeah, hi, thanks. I'm pretty good.
You're doing this kind of late, but you're not tired.
No. I shifted my sleeping schedule to 3 a.m. in the morning to go to bed then, so it's evening for most guys, or past midday, so I'm definitely fine.
So we have plenty of time to do some podcasts and answer some Trackmania questions.
Yeah, surely.
For people that might not know who you are and what you do in Trackmania, can you give them an explanation about who you are?
Yeah, so my name is axelalex2. I'm from Germany, 23 years old at the time. Maybe some of you might remember me in the lineup of eSports, where I joined in 2014. Then I joined TrackMania Masters in 2017. Mainly to help out Dino in hosting the True Cups. But as he had to take a step back, I'm now the master admin. Yeah, and looking forward. I mean, probably most of you know me from the True Cup, but some of you already also know me from the Team Cup. And I guess that's my main 2 points in the Trackmania scene, where you can find me.
So, quick question here. I said you are Axel Alex, but you say Axel Alex2. Why do you come up with that name?
Well, that's a story. So, actually, calling me Axel instead of Alex, my real name, it already began in the first school I was in. The teacher was a pretty old lady already. I don't know why, but she always called me Axel. So that's like a nickname I carried through the time at ways. Then about in the 7th grade, I joined my name and my nickname together into Axel Alex. And when I registered my online login in TrackMania Nations Forever, which was also free at that time, Axel Alex was given. So there came the 2 in. And yeah, that's how I got my name, and I didn't really feel to change it in any way at some times, because it's just pretty unique, I guess.
Yeah, that's for sure. As you said, people know you today as the event organizer, but can you take us back in history and how you started the game and what your first impressions of the game was?
Yeah, sure. Trackmania Original, I had that game on CD. Yeah, on a CD-ROM. I played that for quite some time, but of course I wasn't really good at it, and I also didn't really enjoy it that much. Then also Trackmania Sunrise, I had a couple of plays there, but only in the demo version, so I was also stuck in the island environment only. And then there was Nations. Nations came up with the stadium environment, and I was pretty hooked directly, especially with the free version, Nations Forever. Then I played with some real-life friends on a self-made server. We had quite some fun time on a good mixture of maps, like full speed, tech, some shorter maps, some competition maps even. So really the mix, like the whole variety Trackmania had to give at that point. And yeah, I enjoyed it actually that much that I played further and further and got better with each month I could take more victories against my real life friends, and they called me a tryhard already. Probably others know that as well in their real life, with their real life friends, that you can get pretty tryhard at some point. But I got better and better, And in early 2014, I also discovered Stubby TV, which back then was very dedicated to Trackmania casting, especially with Predator and Nutella. Usually I watch like all VODs of they have recorded on their YouTube channel back then. And of course, most exciting were the big names, Acer, Dignitas, Beaks3, and Team Hot. And I watched really all of those matches back in the days. And on one day, I actually caught them online on Twitch. Finally, I had actually found a day where I could watch them online. And yeah, it was mid-2014 in May. It was ESL season. I think it was the 13th edition of the competition premiership season, where Easy Esports faced Team Hot, the first team, and it was also in the second division. And Team Hot got completely destroyed. Yeah, then I also saw, I looked up Easy Esports. They were a German team, which for me as a German player was like, oh, that sounds good. But these guys are way too good for me. But then I also saw they had a second team, which also was just recently created. So I thought, okay, let's apply and see what we get. And yeah.
So your way into the competitive scene was simply you wanted to play instead of someone discovering you. Like we have other cases of captains going out there, seeing some players develop. But in this case, you were the one that reached out and said, I want to become a good player.
Yeah, definitely. I was getting better each and every time. With every time I played Trackmania, I saw how I could like take better lines through the maps, and I wanted just to get a touch with the competitive scene. Like first of all, try out some stuff. Yeah, not directly go full try hard and try to grind into the absolute top players, but just try out a little. And Easy Esports was just perfect for that opportunity because it were German guys. Like my speaking English was not that good back at that time, so German was perfect. Then they had the second team recently created. I could jump into that. Of course, I had to train still a lot because they were still a little faster than me, like 0.3, 0.4 all the time. So I was still trailing at that point. Yeah, but I caught up. I joined the team. I caught up with every time we played, and yeah, I also think we had some good matches. Although I didn't play that much until at that point because yeah, I still wasn't that good.
How do you describe the time in Easy Esports? Because as an outsider, it seems like a group that sticks together, and we see that now that they are not active anymore. How would you describe the time in that and the atmosphere inside the team?
Yeah, you pointed that out actually already. There is like the main core, which makes Easy Esports. They built a team. They played together in their first seasons. They grinded out through the whole divisions of the ESL back then. So they were the main core, and they sometimes also made it pretty apparent, I would say. But you had to dedicate yourself a lot to get into that core, which I had troubles at first, which is also why I took one guest season in one ESL season. But once I got there, back to the team, back to their main roster of their second team, it just got united better and better. I came closer to the core. We also met in real life 2 times in northern Germany. And of course, you get to know the guys closer, more personal, and yeah, it was much better since then, because previously I was just another teammate. Yeah, just one player on their team. Yeah, let's say it this way. I was another player on their team, but not really a teammate.
Yeah, so you had to sort of gain the respect of the core.
Yeah, respect. Yeah, I think acceptance.
Okay.
Respect as a player was, I guess, not really there, because I still don't have the skill level of like Banana, Speed Unique, Paxmore. all of those guys are still faster than me. So not respect as a driver, but like accepted as a player, and especially as a person. Like meeting them real life really helped.
And for people who are an outsider to the eSport community or wasn't a part of the time back in the days, can you explain to people who were part of the eSport team back in the days?
Yeah, so the website would have been easy to get up now, but it's unfortunately down. So currently in the eSports roster on the ESL, I just looked that up because it's a little easier. So the main core, I'd still say, are made of Paxmauer, Banane, Dan, Funstyle, Onyo, Passy, Robin, Speed You Need. These are pretty much also whole names in the general TrackMania competitive scene, but they got together into one team under the German flag as Easy Esports, and yeah, they were pretty much the core. Also maybe together with Nerox, who then went to the second team because he didn't want to compete in the absolute highest anymore. He didn't find the time to train, and also not the motivation. But he was still around. He's also one guy who still sticks around in the TeamSpeak server. So yeah, that was pretty much the core, which was Easy Esports made of. And I think at one point I was part of that core.
And why did that team come to an end? Because we don't see the team around anymore, and we see barely some people left from that scene. Maybe Onyo showed up now for the Grand League qualifiers, yourself, and we have Dan, I believe, playing for Venture. But why did Easy Esports come to an end?
I think there are multiple factors. First of all, the core of Easy Esports, like, they grinded pretty hard from 2011, I think, until 2016, where they faced against all authorities in the ESL finals, which was their absolute max season. I mean, they were never better than that. Yeah, the second place overall in the competition, that was absolutely astonishing. And afterwards, they still stuck around some tournaments, but they all kind of lost motivation to stick around. It was not like an organizational part. Like Dan and me, we both took some organizational responsibility, like asking the guys when they have time to play a match and stuff like that. We still could figure that out. That was no problem. But they just lost the motivation to actually play and train and then play the matches. It declined further and further. The more Nadio's updates actually went, and with MP4, most of the guys just completely dropped out because they didn't see Trackmania as that Trackmania they learned to play and love.
And how much do you keep in touch with the players from that Easy Esports nowadays?
Yeah, nowadays I have contact with them still over WhatsApp. They sometimes consider actually rejoin team competition, but we just see just single players on some teams. Like Pilesor is part of Dawns for the upcoming TrackMania Masters Team Cup. Tommy is actually together with me now in DACSP. Then we have Dan Venture. And Onyo, I think Onyo also joined HPD for the TMM. And he also tried to qualify in the TrackMania Grand League. But Onyo, of course, one of the guys who was like always around. So I don't think he will go anywhere. He was always around. Just he was a good addition to the Easy Esports core. He's not one of the guys who lost motivation that quickly, like the other guys I mentioned previously.
Who would you say was the best player back in the days for that Easy Esports lineup, and a player that we might see come back and can actually compete against the top players?
Oh, yeah, well, there are a few candidates actually. Banana, he said himself he had some troubles like competing in the match. He was nervous and all, but he was a really fast player. He also won a True Talent Cup once, so he definitely has the skill. Dan is not 100% the tech player. We had, of course, Onyo, probably the best player because he also played in like LAN environments, Gamers Assembly. I don't know if he was in the ESWC, but maybe once.
Yeah, I guess he was, yeah. Both for Canyon and Stadium, I believe.
Yeah, right, Canyon. Yeah, he was definitely for Canyon, yeah. Then there were also Passy. Passy as a United player, he got really good at Stadium and posted some incredible world records there. Speed You Need, like once the best player in Dirt. And like if he would come back in 3 months, I guess he still could challenge Papu. And he was also formidable in tech and not too bad on full speed. So he was also kind of a complete player. I guess these were like the best players in the Easy Esports core. I wouldn't go with one pick to definitely say that was the best player who like inspired me to get better. Of course, I got some tips here and there from all of those guys, but they really like battled each other pretty hard. And depending on the map, one of those guys took like 0.2 seconds off of the others because he was just so good on that map. And sometimes it was just ridiculous how good these guys were, and not only just good like in time attack style, but also consistently.
And how did the shift from you go from being a player for a good team and then ending up in an event organization? What is a simple step from when the Easy Esports declined, then okay, now I want to do something else? Or did you have something in between Easy Esports and the role you have in TrackMania Masters?
There was not that much in between, I would say. It was pretty much a clear shift because towards the end of 2016, towards the beginning of 2017, it was quite clear that Easy Esports, all of those guys lost more and more motivation. The second team got retired at some point, and the players from the second team went up to the first team. So I was actually part of the first team at some point, although I didn't consider myself as skilled enough to drive for the first team. I still was in that lineup for some time, but it was apparent that guys lost more and more motivation. There were no additions to the lineup coming. like we had some other good players joining our team. There was John, there was Barbos, Santana, also pretty good TMNF player. These guys came for some time, but as mentioned, you had to dedicate yourself to the eSports core a lot to get accepted, to get into their style of competing. It was a little different than probably in most other teams. And yeah, they didn't make it. I didn't got that that exception that I got. And then they left the team again. And I guess that's also one factor why Easy Esports then lost ever more motivation. Their core never really shifted. Like that's how a team survives, I guess. You get the older members go out at some point, and new come in, and the face of the teams change like throughout the time, all the time. I don't think you will see Dignitas in today's lineup ever again, because old guys leave, new guys come in, and that just didn't happen for Easy Esports. And yeah, I saw that development, and I wanted to go somewhere else to just try something out. And yeah, then I saw that TrackMania Masters and Dino, they were searching for administrative help. And I always loved the Tutorial Cup. And about the Team Cup, I mean, it was fine. For me, it was still like the competition premiership from the ESL was still my main competition I loved the most. But still, I saw the administrative help Dino was looking for, and I applied, and they took me. It was really a pleasure. I learned quickly from them what they had in mind, what they wanted to do with the Tutorial Cup in the first place, because that's the daily work they have to do. And then also with the Team Cup, which was following pretty soon after I joined in 2017. And then it was pretty much a relatively clean shift. Like it was maybe half a year. I was in Easy Esports and TrackMania Masters at the same time. And then after that, Easy Esports didn't apply for tournaments anymore. So pretty much they were that team from then on. And I guess it was for me only TrackMania Masters at that point.
Going into probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest event organization without too much on the experience, did you feel any pressure going into this and sort of taking over the role for hosting the events?
No, taking over the role was not the main goal in the first place. I mean, Dino said he would have less time, but he also said like he would come back once he has more time. So taking over roles, like replacing Dino, that was not my main goal. It was just supporting them and helping host the Tutorial Cup because I really loved the Tutorial Cup. I played like 75% of them. So it was always fun. I had sometimes even really good performances for my skill level, which wasn't really high still at that point. Was just a fun way and a completely different way of like try-harding maps and trying to win those. So I wanted to live on with the Tutorial Cup. And of course got the whole explanation about how they host those and so on. I just wanted to help out there. And I mean, pretty quickly I also realized Dino needs more help than only the Tutorial Cup, especially in the Team Cup, which was coming relatively soon. I think April was that time, and I joined in the beginning of February. So I only had like 2 months of experience, and also only 2 Talent Cup, like hosting stuff. And then I had to organize a team cup. that went pretty quick, I would say.
Yeah, you went quick up the ladder there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but still, it was like team cup. Okay, we take this. I take this one. I help him out there too. But still, my main focus, my main goal was on keeping a True Talent Cup alive, because it was fun for me. It's fun for most other guys. I mean, it also shows in the number of the True Talent Cup itself. Like we had half a year ago, 20,000 starters in total, and I guess there's barely a tournament which can post numbers like that. So I wanted to, keep that alive. Not only for me because I enjoyed it, but for the whole community. Would have been kind of sad to lose that, or maybe some other organizers would have taken over and made it maybe a little other format. But I loved the one TrackMania Masters. I loved the exact format TrackMania Masters did, and I wanted to help. And they looked for help, and they got it.
You said that the core group of the eSport was kind of hard to get into. How was it to get into the group of TrackMania Masters? Did you get along straight away, or did you have to sort of have a process of actually getting to know each other and find out what kind of personalities each other had?
I think it was pretty professional work at that point. Like in teams, you have to know each other to work together as a team. Of course, you need to do that in organizers too, but you have to work together. In teams, you have to play together. So it's a little different. And socially, I also got more experiences with guys over the internet, like working together, playing together, communicating together with other guys on the internet by Easy Esports, like joining them previously and so on. And yeah, so I took that experience I had from the team earlier on over to TrackMania Masters, and it pretty much worked out of the box. Dino and Barney, the 2 guys, they were back then, made it also quite easy for me and Barbers. Actually, didn't want to leave that out. He joined TrackMania Masters together with me to help Dino and Barney. They made it pretty easy. They prepared like also YouTube videos how to create pages on TrackMania Masters on our website. They provided all sorts of tutorials by text and by video on just how to get around, how to post announcements, and how to update our sites correctly. And then of course also hosted True Talent Cup correctly. We had multiple sessions in TeamSpeak. We just sit together. We then also played the True Talent Cups mostly together when they were still in TrackMania Nations Forever, for the most part. It was more of a professional atmosphere, like rather than like friendly atmosphere you would have together with friends, which was the case for Easy Esports. So it was a little different. It was a little easier to get, because it was mostly related to work rather than building up a team and working with a team, which is more socially, I guess, aimed on persons rather than a goal or work to do.
There's no question that the True Talent Cup is, if not the most popular event in the history of TrackMania, at least one of the most popular events in the TrackMania history. You had a video where the slots are filled up with 50 seconds or so. Last year at the Trackmania Awards in 2017, then I believe one of the stories was TrackMania Masters moving, the True Talent Cup moving from Nations Forever to TrackMania 2. But also this year at the Trackmania Awards, the nomination was that the True Talent Cup was back at TrackMania 2. What is the current state of the True Talent Cup, and how do you see the popularity now to, let's say, 3 years ago?
And the popularity of the True Talent Cup slightly decreased, just in raw numbers, I would say. We had in the first, I think the first 5 editions or so still had the high numbers we also posted in TrackMania Nations Forever just a few weeks ago. It was still around 200 participants. The server was not 100% full at the like mid 2016, where really the whole server was full and players couldn't join because there were no slots available anymore. So we lost a little bit towards that part already, but still had like 200 participants, which is a whole lot.
Huh.
So we were still quite fine with that. But at some point, I just think the True Talent Cup is just stuck around for so long. It's not really 100% special anymore. That's just my opinion, right? I still support it, and want to go as far as it can go. But that's also like a pitfall, maybe, because it's just so well known at that point, and it's everyone is disappointed if the True Talent Cup isn't hosted in 1 week. But also, it's not that special anymore, because when I took part the very first time, it was just, how do I do this? And I think most players don't have that experience now anymore, because they know how to drive in the True Talent Cup. It's not 100% something new. And I guess that's hurting the numbers of the True Talent Cup a little more. Of course, it solidified the True Talent Cup as maybe the easiest cup to get into as a casual player, into competition, although you get knocked out pretty early. But it's probably one of the best cups which combine casual and competitive gameplay. And it just solidified itself at that point. But also, it's not really special anymore. We're also looking like, what can we do to make it somewhat special? But of course, currently our focus lies on the Team Cup. And afterwards, we will look what we can do to refresh True Talent Cup.
Would you say that the numbers would have been higher if you stayed in Nations Forever? Because you have people coming up to you, at least in the Twitch stream that I watched. You see, why is not the True Talent Cup hosted in TMM than I would play? Would you think that the player number would have been higher then? Or is it simply not a matter of what game the event is hosted in?
Yeah, I don't think it's the game, actually. We had the anniversary edition, again, had 220 players. And I don't think it would look quite different with the slight decrease over the editions, with a slight number decrease over the editions. I don't think it would look different in TMNF, in Nations Forever. I don't think it has something to do with that. It's more like the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Like you can, in TM2, you can build maps which are much more smooth. Right? You have the title pack, the competition title pack available for all your needs. You can also create some fun stuff. But I guess the little bugs and issues TMNF brings up, some people enjoy that. I think some people just enjoy that, and therefore they play in TMNF. But there's also like the other side. Other players enjoy TM2 more because it's more smooth gameplay. So I think we could just like swap out the hardcore Trackmania Nation Survivor players with the Trackmania 2 players, and it wouldn't quite make a difference. So I think just from numbers doesn't really make a difference. Problem being with TM2, it's still supported, and just as we saw with the update of MP4.1, the anniversary edition we had wasn't quite the best. The first 2 rounds were full of red times for nearly all players, and I guess that's some stuff which can hurt us. Yeah, right. As all these red times are not really fun for anyone. Not for the players who get knocked out, not for the players who stay in still, because they see the issues which are happening, and not fun for us because we in the most case we cannot really do much about it. And if we do something about it, it's mostly just minimizing the number of spots we can give to players. I mean, what can we do about that? It's a tough position as the admin in that case, and that's like the pitfall of Trackmania 2. It's still a supported game. There are still updates coming, and the updates cannot also fix stuff and make stuff better, but also break stuff. And that's maybe one factor why the raw numbers of the Tutorial Cup are a little decreasing.
Yeah, how is it to be an event organizer and you have these problems that probably the game developer should fix but doesn't fix? You have the same case with the endurance race of Spam. It's not hosted as much anymore, I believe, because of simply a lap script. How have you tried to reach out to Nadeo personally about this problem, or what is your way of fixing this, if there is a way to fix it in your eyes?
And we had one of the earlier editions when we went back to TM2 was to record like the network load and the rest of the hardware load of our server, and send those logs to Nadeo. Of course, a little prettier than just the raw logs. But of course, we reported that stuff we found to them, and at some point they released MP 4.1, and now problems are that apparent, and I mean that obvious. We shouldn't need to report any further, I guess, because I guess Nadeo knows about the issues they have and the issues we have to deal with. But at some point, it's just not enough to make adjustments. Either you stick with what you got, or you have to stop hosting. I mean, it sounds really hard, but it's also something to consider. Maybe it's just not working out in the way it does, and we have to wait for a major update to fix the current problems, because with the current problems, it's just not as fun.
Huh. If you were, let's say, a bigger event, like, of course, the perfect example is the Serrator Cup. If he had the problems, I can only assume that the problems would be fixed straight away. Is that your view of it, or is it more complicated than a quick fix?
I mean, with the issues we face, I won't want to, how could you say it? I don't want to call out Nadeo on only fixing stuff if they organize stuff or Serrator does, because these events have definitely the highest viewer count of all, and they even reach like casual casual players which are not known to play Trackmania at all. I don't want to call out Nadeo on that case. Like, they would only fix stuff if it's affecting like not Trackmania players. If problems are obvious for not Trackmania players, I don't want to do that. I'm pretty sure Nadeo knows what's going on in that community and which organizers keep their game active. I just want more communication, and that's what I would wish. Like, more communication, what's happening behind the scenes, what they're working on, so that the organizers know more what they have to prepare for themselves in upcoming tournaments and stuff. Of course, at some point there has to be a limit. You cannot take like every single super small tournament and pack it up into that group. But the bigger tournament organizers and stuff, which just build over the year, I think there should be some sort of group where you could communicate what Nadeo is doing, what we are trying to do, and not only in the technical stuff. Like, that was a pretty big factor, of course, with coming with MP4 and the update MP4.1. Not only the technical stuff, but also the competitive stuff, what the plans of Nadeo are in that direction, having an impact on the competitions directly. Not only the game, but also the competitions. Like, we see it now with the TrackMania Grand League, right? They have some sort of plan, but they don't tell us everything. And I think the other tournament organizers and Nadeo should come together and just listen to each other, what they have to say, and maybe we can move into one general direction, into the same direction. That would be really one thing I would wish for the future. I mean, at least now we have Softy, who's communicating with Hylas. Softy coming from other tournaments before. At least Softy now has contact with Hylas and Nadeo. So maybe other organizers can also get direct contact in the future. I'm quite positive about that case with the TrackMania Grand League, so that's a positive aspect I want to see, and I also want to see build on in the future.
Yeah, I guess you can move over the topic now to the TrackMania eSports collaboration. I was not part of it when it got founded. Can you tell us what was the main reason for this sort of group getting together, and what was the vision for that group?
So Softy, just mentioned it, he actually founded the group. He invited some other organizers into it pretty quickly, and some top players. His goal was to identify problems and, of course, solve problems in the tournaments, which are held at the highest level of competitive Trackmania. That was the main idea. But the exact goals were not quite defined, because every organizer has different tournaments and different goals for their tournaments. For example, a True Talent Cup will stay the True Talent Cup as long as it's hosted under TrackMania Masters. There will be no alterations made, even if the eSports collaboration had some sort of wishes for it. It's still 100% TrackMania Masters work and responsibility to host the True Talent Cup. For team cups and other solo competitions, it was a little different. It was not only looking out in the tournament formats, but it was also looking further into we had other ideas, like a completely unified map pool, which then again gets a little different, because TrackMania Masters, for example, has shorter maps. TrackMania Masters came from short tech and speed tech, that sort of thing. mostly inspired by Hot Rods maps. And also other ideas like how we could improve streaming for all kinds of viewers, having one big streaming channel which covers like all competitions throughout Trackmania, which Stubby TV, for example, did in German. They just always picked like one match of a tournament and then just casted it. In this case, of course, made a little bigger in English and across all big tournaments. We had ideas about how to work out a proper calendar, and also unify maybe a little the tournament formats. Like it was the ESL back in the days. They had a player limit for teams of 14 players, where they still had the 5v5 format. And because of discussions in the Trackmania eSports collaboration, the ESL and now TM Stars switched to 3 versus 3 at most in the matches and have at most 8 players in the lineup. So that's actually a change directly coming from the eSports collaboration, while we as TrackMania Masters didn't go with every change we have discussed in that collaboration, because one of the goals in the eSports collaboration was also to keep organizers free to some degree. So it was created as a platform to communicate between tournament organizers and maybe get some other ideas, some new ideas, completely new ideas in to keep the Trackmania competitive scene alive and interesting. But also, of course, keep freedom for some other tournaments. You still have full responsibility as the tournament hoster. The eSports collaboration just should help as a backhand.
So the idea it's a good idea in the first place, but nowadays we don't see much action there anymore. Maybe now after the Grand League got started again. But why did you think that this group didn't eventually work out and the activity sort of dropped to close to zero?
Activity close to zero is because we don't have currently that big problems we need to communicate and work on. So I think if someone has a problem who's part of the eSports collaboration, he still can go to the eSports collaboration and we can discuss it. That's surely no problem, because there are still other event organizers there. There are still streamers there. There are still players there. There are still mappers there who have all kinds of knowledge, who can try to help us, whichever problem we have. It's not going so far that we actually have to take actions throughout all competitions. Previously mentioned the lineup limit for the competition premiership with the 8 players. There was just one instance, for example. Also, another reason why we don't do as much actively anymore. I don't know if I said it before, but matchmaking was a thing. We discussed we wanted to have as eSports collaboration, and then at some point, Erwin came up with the ESAC, which had the full matchmaking and ranking already built on the website. So that was a point for us. We didn't need to discuss further because he has full control over it, and he also made a pretty good system. So I think the eSports collaboration is always there for discussions for the highest level of the competitions and the high competitive organizers, but we currently don't need any actions. We tried out some stuff to modernize tournaments. You can see also some of the effects from that in the Team Cup 2018, where we completely, not completely, but we changed a lot of formats in that year. You can still see the effects of that. But currently we don't have big problems every single tournament faces, so that the esports collaboration actually has to come together and make decisions together. So
I guess as
I don't think it's quite a bad thing that the collaboration currently does nothing.
Yeah, I guess it might be a sign that there is small problems. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the goal actually.
You talk about having closer contact to the event or to the game developer in Nadeo, and at the moment we have SoftDB there, but he's probably just focusing on his event. Would you think that was a good idea if the community and the event organizers had one representative there, like sort of having a voting, and then once that person retires or if he leaves the game, you just vote again and you still have a contact with Nadeo? Because let's say that SoftDB stops now next year. I guess someone new has to build up that relationship instead of saying that he has the support of the community or the organizers.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's actually one guy only for the whole of the community against one guy, which is Hylas for the whole of Nadeo. I think the community is a lot bigger than Nadeo, obviously, and we have a so big diversity. I don't think one guy could possibly cover that good enough to represent the community. So it should be different people. Of course, not people, because Nadeo also need to invest time. So it should be a quite selected little group of people, but it should not be one guy who has contact to Nadeo directly to like communicate stuff, figure stuff out, what we want to do together to move the game forward. I mean, at least we have now someone who works who works as middleman between the community and Nadeo to move stuff forward together, because I think that's actually the first tournament which combines Nadeo's effort with the community effort, and that after 15 years. I think it's quite astonishing, but it was also pretty much needed. A game where the developers don't follow the community and where the community doesn't follow the developers, I don't think a game like that survives for that long. So it was much overdue to have such a step, but we shouldn't stay there. We should get some more people to get into contact with Nadeo. Not that one tournament is not enough, in my opinion.
Let's talk about the main reason why you're actually a guest at this time, because of the TrackMania Masters Team Cup coming up. You had the seeding last weekend when the first stage of TrackMania Grand League was taking place. How did the seeding process go in your eyes?
Yeah, so to quickly elaborate on the format, in previous years, from 2012, which was the first year we had a true Team Cup in. I wasn't part of that admin team back in the day. It was the first Team Cup. Until 2018, we always manually seeded the teams into groups. We wanted to get rid of that because teams nowadays are switching the players so much. Like it at some stage, it just completely becomes fluid. At some point, you don't see the old Dignitas expert roster. They don't play together anymore. Then there was a breakup of the Acer guys at some point, of BX3. They all went in different directions. So even at the top of the competition, teams change so often so relatively often, that it was kind of hard to like manually seed them. So we implemented that qualification stage. Going into that qualification stage, I think it was a fine format. Most of the guys who were playing in that were quite fine with the format. They enjoyed it. It also makes a good difference between the True Talent Cup, where you have a knockout cup without training before, between the Mania Exchange knockouts, where the maps are known but not particularly try-harded or trained. So between unknown maps, between known maps, and between actually trained maps, which we had in the qualification. So that was kind of interesting to see. Most people liked it. The results which came out of the qualification might be a little very diverse and not representative of the actual outcome in the end. But the Swiss Cup will most likely eliminate these differences from the final result, so that we still have a good competition, a good team cup in the end. And if there are problems, I think with the base idea, we want to still go in the next events, in the next team cups, in the next years. I think the base idea is not that bad. Also, the format is not that bad. If there are problems, of course, we have to change something up. And just like with 2017 to 2018, where we changed like most of the stuff up. We changed the super small groups to 2 big groups. Like, we are open to changes. And if there are problems, of course, we will apply changes. But for now, it actually looks really, really good. But we have to see again at the end of the group stage if the qualification format in the format we had it actually worked out.
Do you have the list of who got the top seed off the top of your head, or what team did the best and who is going in as the first seed?
So first seed was HPD. HPD is actually, in my opinion, a dark horse for the whole tournament win, because they have quite some good players in their lineup. I think Onyo joined them pretty late. They also have other really, really good players. Barbos is in there, Bomber, Optimus. They're not the absolute top of players, but they're known, they have a lot of experience, and they really can take a long run if they dedicate themselves to training and stuff. On the second place with the exact score, we had DuckSP eSports Blue, which got some good additions to the lineup in the past few months. And UB Team, a French team, I think mostly consisting of the old E-Corp roster and some Against All Authorities players. So these guys are also pretty known, but the biggest teams didn't show up in the qualifier, and I still expect from them so much more. Planet Key Dynamics, for example, fell pretty far down. Trackmania Heroes Europe, the blue team, which is their first team, I guess, they also didn't quite show up. They only got 19th, Planet Key Dynamics 20th. So they have to show something in the group stage, and I'm pretty sure they will. So yeah, maybe a little random from the results of the qualification. It can seem like, but they'll all have the time to come back from that pretty I guess disappointing performance they put up in the qualifications.
A quick question here: why is actually, if you have multiple teams, why are the teams not ranked like, let's say, THE number 1, THE number 2. As a spectator myself, at least, that will be way easier to follow instead of having blue, green, orange, black, and so on.
I mean, we keep the changes to. I mean, we keep the freedom to the teams to decide however they want to register. So sometimes, I mean, back in the days, it really was get the best teams into one team, and then of your full team, get the best players into one roster, get the second teams into a second roster, get the second players into a second roster, and so that the first team is definitely better than the second team. But I don't know why we saw changes in this kind of system. At some point, there was actually like more and more second teams who could challenge the first team. So I guess some teams just went with that direction. I could also see the reason that the second team didn't want to have the 2, right? So they're not like the first roster, which could, like, it's not the main roster for them. I think M&M was one of the first teams to actually implement something like that with their academy team. I don't think they ever refer to them as M&M 2. And I think other teams kind of liked that idea. And so they went with it, right? So DAGSP has a blue and an orange team. THE has blue, orange, and pink elementaries. And Meta League both had a black and white. AuxGP has a black and a red. And so I think that shifted a little bit. A new era is one team which actually has an official second roster, other than dedicate themselves to the relatively new approach with 2 different colors.
I guess my favorite team is a new era 2 then, because I simply like to have 1 and 2 behind. It's way easier to follow, and let's say if the second team makes it far in the tournament, that's just way bigger story then, because they were ranked, quote unquote, as number 2 and then still beat number 1 team and even makes it farther in the tournament.
Yeah, I can see the reason for that. I can also see the reason for the players who don't want to have the 2 to just look like second row. So, I mean, I don't care as an organizer, right?
Yeah,
so they can do pretty much whatever they want with their division of the teams, like I want to organize, and also how they want to name it. It just should be consistent, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it's hard for an outsider to get used to those, to those names instead of numbers, clear numbers. But I can see the reason as a player why they don't want the numbers.
Yeah. Looking further in the future of this Team Cup, how do you see it play out, and what expectations do you have for this edition of the TrackMania Masters Team Cup?
We put a lot of time into map testing. We got pretty much fired in 2018 for bad maps and bad handling of the maps. So we tried to improve on that in the very first place. We put a lot of effort into testing the maps and even part-wise hunting the maps, because except the format, I guess players want to have good maps. We just figured that way too late in 2018, that a tournament rises and falls with the quality and the style of the maps. I mean, the style in this case is given for us. Just the quality of the maps has to be there. And at that point, I don't think players really mind the different formats that much, as long as the maps are good to play. So if we keep up the work with providing good and flowy maps and interesting maps, I think most people will like the tournament overall. Even though I want to see the double elimination bracket, which we have put up, I want to see that work out. Softy had that idea in his first Team Cup he organized, and I wanted to have that too, because a single elimination for for the tournament win is a relatively harsh thing. So I wanted that double elimination, and most other people who answered our survey, it was a little correlation between how far players got and their willingness to play 2 matches at a weekend. So it was kind of obvious. It was reason enough for us to go with a double elimination bracket in the end for the tournament win, and that's still a thing I want to keep, like feedback from all of the guys, not only from the top players, but also from the casual players. That's a really important thing for organizers to have, and of course to get. We now have also the one channel in the Discord server dedicated just only to give feedback, like directly, not in a survey. Maybe you forget something along the lines. The farther the tournament progresses, and so they can leave feedback right there, right at that time where they have it. And I think it's not really about how the tournament plays out, but I mean, I don't really care who wins the tournament in the end. If it's an upset, it's an upset. If a big team wins, it's a big team that wins. Also, most players don't mind if there's money on the line in the end, as long as the whole tournament is enjoyable. And for that, we need communication. And I guess that's the most important part about the whole tournament. Just keeping communications up, and that's our main goal. It might sound ridiculous. Right? You have a tournament, you want to go the tournament as good as possible. But our main goal is actually to keep communications alive.
Huh. Yeah, that's
to get the good tournament the players want.
Huh. Was it last year that you had this introduction of this new map pool system, or was it the year before?
No, it was 2018.
Okay.
The base idea people liked, but not kind of the implementation. The take we took on that. So we changed it up for this year, and we got to see again how it works out.
So it's the same system now?
Not 100% the same system. In 2018, it was always increasing map pool. That was the base idea. So like you then have 13 maps in the finals you could pick from. But I also can see like the players don't want to train 10 weeks the first map all the time. It just gets boring at some time. So we changed that up for this year. The map pool is directly limited on 5 maps for the most part. And so yeah, the maps will change a bit more often than it has in the previous year. And of course, we want to see how the tournament progresses, how players like it, and maybe we have other ideas for next year. But whatever is enjoyed and will probably stay for next year.
You said that players probably enjoy the tournament as long as the maps are good enough, and that you. So in 2014, I believe you said maps were sort of disliked. But as an event organizer, how do you ensure that the maps that are sent in are actually good, because you don't build them yourself, you simply just post out the map request.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I was part of the map testing crew. Of course, I wanted to see like what the maps are about, which are the best maps, and so on and so forth. And I of course have to stand behind what I publish for my own tournament. So ensuring quality is not. I don't think we have a big impact on that matter. We really have to see what we get and what we have to work with, what we can work with. At some point, of course, we can, like in specific instances, in really specific instances, we can identify problems with the maps, and then we of course communicate with the mapper what's maybe the problem and how could you solve it to make it a better map, like more suitable for the rounds in the end, for the matches, and maybe have less bugs or whatever it is. We have some experience in the map testing crew, of course, too. You really need to have that to get some perspective on the maps and have some ideas on them. The base idea, not the base idea, the base structure is of course community dependent, right? How good they can send in maps, but there are also really, really good mappers out there. And so far they didn't really disappoint us. So the maps that came in were high quality. We had to take 1 or 2 slight alterations in some maps because they could have been just a tad bit better. So we communicated with them. But otherwise, so far, the community didn't let us down about the map quality so far, and I hope they still don't in the future. Because if so, we would have a problem. That's true. That's true. But Team Masters was always between community, casual, and competitive. It's like it has a bit of everything. Like it's community driven, so that players can send up their maps, not only for the Team Cup but also for the 2-Channel Cup. Sometimes we have maps made by us, by the organizers. We had the special editions for some True Talent Cups, which were provided by Hot Rod. Yeah, so we also have that. But then also we're a good mix of, I would say a good mix between competition and casual gameplay, because we allow every team to compete in our Team Cup. There are some not that skilled teams which still enjoy to play our tournament, and of course the previous mentioned Team Cup. It's not quite easy to get everything under the hood, but so far the community did not disappoint us with the quality and the dedication they put up for us to dedicate us to help them, right? So it's a good mixture between everything, and as long as we keep that up, I can see TrackMania Masters also survive for another 10 years.
Yeah, that's for sure. The most talked about tournament at the moment is not the tournament we talk about, but it's the TrackMania Grand League, and it's going on at the same time as the TrackMania Masters Team Cup. First of all, do you see any problems with this sort of overlapping system, or is it simply easy to have multiple events since it's solo event, and on the other side you have a team event?
Yeah, I don't think it's quite impossible to have that. Like, you have just like, let me take Rocket League as an example. There are so many tournaments ongoing at the same time. It's ridiculous, right? For the top of the competition, then for the little lower of the competition, lower tier, lower skill players, it's like every weekend and even in the middle of the week, there are tournaments for Rocket League players. And this should be our goal for Trackmania too. Like the TrackMania Grand League is for the absolute top of the players. We have only 16 people from around the world. And of course, most of the guys in the Team Cup who are participating in the Team Cup cannot participate in the Grand League because they simply don't have the skill for it. It's just a fact. And going by that, I think it should be possible to have team cups alongside individual cups, solo competitions. I think we just need to communicate maybe dates a little better, because they are quite a little overlapping. As I said, I don't think it's bad that they overlap in general. It's maybe just a little bad that, for example, our final weekend, there's also one step of the TrackMania Grand League. I don't mind it for the early stages of our Team Cup. It's not that important. The more the Team Cup progresses, the closer the matches should get. That's how we designed in a newer format in 2018 and built it up for 2019. The later the Team Cup gets in their stages, the closest the matches and the more thrilling they should be. And then it's, I would say, not optimal that the TrackMania has one race at the same weekend we have our finals weekend. That's like the negative I can see there. It should be possible to have a solo competition. Definitely it should be possible to have a solo competition besides the team competition. The top of the players, they can just miss out on a Team Cup, which is more like, there are Team Cups all the time. The solo competition is not that happening that often currently. And for most players in the teams, they don't have the chance. So, coexisting at the same time also too, sure. But maybe not the final stages.
But this is, as I said, the hottest topic in Trackmania. What do you, as an event organizer, think about this tournament and how it moves the game Trackmania forward? Because it's the first time, like you said, that we have a community person working alongside the game developer. But the format itself and the event itself, what is your first impression of it? Because we only had one stage so far.
First of all, the base idea, as also previously mentioned, is good. Working together, community and tournament organizers together with Nadeo, finally, it was a much needed step. So that's definitely a really good part. And I also can see the effort both Softy and Hylas try put in, and they put the work in to improve the tournament along the way, even in the current beta season, which it currently is. But I also see the negatives. They tried to implement systems which were never thought out so far. They were never attempted before, and they just tried it in the Grand League, which is a pretty bold move for their first attempt at doing something like that. But they always said it's a beta season. At some point you have to do something new to not keep it repetitive all the time, right? You also have to try something out. But I also think that the beta they put behind the Grand League is sometimes a little excuse to hide the fact that they didn't properly organize some things and work out stuff. We all saw the not that quite well working maps, and we also saw the not quite well working format in the first stage. pretty obvious. And for me, it's just a little excuse to add that little beta to it. Otherwise, I really want to see the community and Softy work together with Nadeo to improve this format as far as can go. I was pretty negative about the TrackMania Grand League in the first place when they announced it, not because of the interfering. That's a word. With the interference between their tournament and the Team Cup. I don't really mind that, but the format and everything, it was just not really working out in my mind. I didn't even need to try it. Yeah, just from thinking about it. It was not the format I would have gone with. And as long as they still work on it, I guess then we should be fine in the future. And I hope Softy and Hylis both do that in the future. And I'm pretty sure they will do that in the future. So coming from a negative perspective on the TrackMania Grand League, I can also see the positive aspects, and I still want to see them. I still don't think it's a personal opinion. Most of the guys like the TrackMania Grand League, but I don't quite like it yet. I want to still see it improve. I see the positive aspects. And yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? We saw little improvements. It's not yet enough for me to say it's a good tournament, but they say it's a beta, it's a better, and yeah, when they have their format set, I want to see a good solo tournament, which creates close and exciting racing, and not only for us TrackMania hardcore fans and players, but also for the general public. That's really something I want to see.
You talk about you see some problems with the format, and that you could already see it almost before it was played out. What if you had to give some tips and some feedback for some changes that you want to see and implemented? What would be the first changes that you would see taking place?
Well, first of all, talk to the community. I mean, that's something I want to have for the Team Cup. That's something I really want to see for the Grand League too. There was not enough communication before they planned the whole format for the Grand League, and now they start to communicate between each other, the community together with the developers and the tournament organizers, and it's getting better, right? So that's like my main point. You have to communicate with the community, and that's in the first place something I want to see. Hylis said himself that the cup mode was better than rounds, and he was true with the finalist mode. I was not in the competitive season at that time where they had this discussion, but Hylis says he was the one guy who pushed the cup mode instead of just simple rounds. And if he is right about the champions mode with that too, I want to see that, to see if he's right, but I currently can't see it. And I'm pretty sure we all have enough experience of TrackMania at that point, because the game is 15 years old and some guys are double-digit years in this community already. They have just as much experience with the game as the developers have, right? So talk with your community. Yeah, summed up or accumulated. The community even has more experience than the developers. So yeah, communication in developing these formats further is a big factor, and that's what I want to see. I see it currently, and that's a good thing about the Grand League. But I want more. I want more communication between Nadeo and the community.
We have this new format and this new sort of style of maps, and we have the famous quote that the tech is dead. You're hosting a tech event yourself. What do you think about the future for the tech style in Trackmania?
Well, tech is yeah, how to judge? I think the tech maps are that smooth already that tech is pretty much built out. Tech tournaments are still enjoyable, yeah, and extremely fun to race. But of course, the maps in itself are not really something new. You have just like some new blocks you can put into your maps to make it a little more interesting, but the general style and most of the turn combinations in tech maps are pretty much known already and pretty much set. So yeah, tech is not developing as style as others maybe are. So I can see that argument, but I don't think it's getting dull or repetitive. Still, tech is still around. They're still quite interesting and enjoyable maps, while the style is pretty much set. There are still enjoyable maps. You can currently see it with the maps we have put out for the Team Cup. There are pretty much no complaints about them yet. So yeah, I think tech is still at the top. Most people play them in the competitive scene. We have some really skilled players who can build really good tech maps. At the top of the competition, exchanging that, I don't quite know yet. And the Grand League just swapped out the tech maps with more Nadeo styled maps. That's not quite working out. You can have an endurance competition if you want at the top of the competition. That's fine for me. Like the endurance maps, I don't mind that. They have to have good quality still to be enjoyable for the players, and that's the main thing. I don't mind if tech is up there or if full speed is up there for the top competition, for the highest paid competition. I also always wondered why it's always tech at the top and not like full speed or dirt, where yeah, there's also a scene for, which is not as big, of course, but why the world champion previously was always decided on tech only. That's something I never really understood. The world champion, in my opinion, should have always been a versatile player, good on every aspect of Trackmania. Trackmania is a diverse game, so the world champion should be diverse in the style of Trackmania too. So, as said, I don't mind that they exchange tech, but tech is still enjoyable. And it's still built, and it's still a lot played, and I don't think it should just get thrown in the trash bin for it. It should stay for good reason. Yeah, and that's why we have it in our Team Cup. If you want to have a tournament without tech, it's fine, of course.
What is your general view of Trackmania and, let's say, 2019 and how the year overall looks, let's say, compared to 2018, 2017 and so on? Is the game overall moving forward, or do you think that we are stuck at the same place and can't get out of here?
No, I don't think we are stuck. Especially the move by Nadeo and the TrackMania Grand League to involve bigger streamers. You know, like Solary for the French community is a pretty good step. We didn't think of it before, and as relatively small tournament organizer, I don't think we would have quite the impact to actually get big streamers to cast and comment on our tournaments. Nadeo, as a developer team, has a bigger impact on that. Can ask bigger streamers to get more exposure for their big tournaments, of course. I think that's a pretty big factor, and I want to see development on that, because that's also how you get new players into the scene. And you need to have the right audience, which in this case are not the TrackMania players. Now to get them to play TrackMania. So that's a good way to do it. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter yet how big of quality they're actually casting is. Also, in my opinion, because they need to make the people who don't play TrackMania interested into playing TrackMania and sticking around and actually getting active. That should be the goal, and I think that's also one good factor about the Grand League I can see. But of course, it should not only be the state of art. Like, this should not be the only way TrackMania in the end should look like. What we developed throughout the years, and currently, for example, with Ryulu and R2K as two extremely good casters in English, they should still be the go-to if we have like the top of the tournaments, the final of the tournaments, and the TrackMania Grand League finals. In this case, we have to have some, let's call them catchers for not TrackMania players, and then we have to have the professionals who just know what's going on, who can say outright what's happening, who are maybe even good players themselves, and who know the game just inside and out. I mean, there's some catching strategies in other games too, mostly by Steam sales or something like that. TrackMania is too old for that kind of stuff. You don't get players to buy your game by just set your game on sales on Steam or something like that. TrackMania is too old for that, but the current step Nadeo is taking into that kind of thing, get involved with bigger streamers to cast and comment on their tournaments. I think that's a good step. They should follow on that. And but of course they also should not disregard the whole community, which has set itself over the whole years. It's a balance act, and that's difficult. And I can understand that it's difficult. Talk with the community, and I think the community is willing to understand what your goals are, and if you explain it to them, they will be open to it. I just come back every time to the same point again. Talk with the
it's
community.
A key point for this podcast. Listen to the community.
Yeah, totally.
But if you look outside of your own event and outside of the TrackMania Grand League, how do you see the community moving forward? Is there more events taking place, better events, and is the game overall, in your eyes, more active now than, let's say, compared to last year and the year before?
I think the numbers in that case are pretty constant. Of course, the possibilities of around the game, casual game modes. There's also now the Envy Mix title pack. There's the Desert title pack. I think it's called Speed or something. There are still developments along the way, and it's getting bigger and bigger from the content type of things, not necessarily from the player type of things. I don't know. It's a pretty tough question. There are all tournaments to fade away. For example, the Professional Endurance Cup, which I think recently hosted its last Canyon edition. It's quite sad to see a tournament like that go, but there will be others to take their place. So, I mean, it's currently just exchange for exchange from tournaments and, yeah, maybe even players. Because we can see in the number of teams which registered for our Team Cup, there are 50 teams. Last year, there were 48. So the number of players is still pretty set, pretty constant. There's not much changing in the number of players. So I don't see the game dying currently, but I also don't see the game currently increasing in numbers. I hope that the Grand League is a step towards getting the game bigger again. But I can only hope in that case. And yeah, as said, from the numbers, I don't see development in either way. Right now, it's set in the middle. We got to that point, and we're currently staying at it. And I mean, let's see what 2019 brings us. It's still pretty early in the year, so I mean, who am I to judge? Yeah, maybe the Grand League is the big step towards a bigger community again, and I can only hope for it. And yeah, but I don't see, like, if the Grand League is no success, I don't see that a big pile of players will then leave the game because they're just not satisfied with what Nadeo is doing. Yeah, the tournament organizers are still around, and they're still doing pretty much the same work and with the same quality of work they've done in all the years before. So even if the Grand League is not as, I also don't see why the game should decrease even further in popularity. So I think in 2019, if Nadeo doesn't push a really breaking update, I don't see 2019 in as a negative year in numbers already. I can only see the positive in that case, how much room is there to improve. And yeah, the worst which could happen, in my opinion, is staying at the number where we are right now.
As an event hoster myself, I normally host an event and then I get a new idea for another event, so I simply just switch events from time to time. The TrackMania Masters, like you said, are famous for the True Talent Cup and the TrackMania Masters Team Cup, but is there a format and an event that you want to host but have yet to start and release and launch?
Yeah, we actually have some ideas for it, but we also have to find the correct timing for it. Together with the eSports collaboration with the other hosters, probably it will not be another Team Cup, because that would be pretty weird to have two full dedicated Team Cups. Then maybe also attack. I don't see that happening. It's still one of our main focuses with tech, because it's the biggest sub-community in the competitive tech, in the competitive Trackmania scene. Tech is the style most people play. But of course we have ideas, and not only me, but our latest addition to the administrative team, Supreme, apparently also has its ideas. Of course, he cannot tell me every idea of his directly to me without thinking about it exactly, but I know that he has plans. That's the only thing I can tell you. I also have my plans, and maybe if we work on it after the Team Cup, of course, and continue to host the TrackMania Team Cup, the True Talent Cup, then I don't see why TrackMania Masters should only stay with those two formats over the time. Dino had his 50-minute hunt for quite some short time. It was like 50 minutes hunting, then the top 5 going to a KO. So it was like 30 minutes of a short competition on a single map. It was, like there were 30 or 40 guys playing in it. So there weren't like that much players, but still enough to have a enjoyable and small competition. So why not? Maybe we can have something like that again. A smaller competition for players who just have a little bit of time at the point. But of course, we have to look out for the other competitions, for the other organizers to find the correct place and time to host it.
We have talked about TrackMania in general. We have talked about the Team Cup, True Talent Cup, the Grand League. But is there any topic in TrackMania that you feel needs more attention and maybe goes under the radar for the average guy?
Project development. I mean, I'm a developer myself. Of course, I will say something like that. Developments alongside the game made by the community. I think they should get a little more focus and also get like the developers or actual developers from the community involved. Like there is Open Planet, for example, which is which can create some really, really fun stuff, but also could really break the game. And also the Mania script environment. So why not take some time and dedication for some guys? And I mean, for example, there's Domi. He implemented the Pursuit mode, which is really, really fun mode to play if there are enough guys for it. There's also the Chase mode, which was hosted by Paragon. There was a full cup about it. I think that needs some more time and dedication and exposure. Like there are interesting formats at the site which are implemented and developed by developers from the community. It's just not like a simple format, a simple tournament format you can just put on and just run with it, but make something different by code, by developing, really developing some stuff from the PC. So actually one tournament idea we have would also involve coding from our side, of course. So we also have our ideas in that case, and we have some fun stuff in the backhand, which we're about to release actually very, very soon for the Team Cup.
Give us some spoilers. Give us some spoilers here.
I don't know how could I. Nah, I mean, I want to like give you a little hint, but also not completely spoil it. So,
sure, give us a hint then.
Okay, let's say like if most guys who are playing in team cups and also in matches know that matches not work 100% smooth. Like there's one time you can, for example, player goes out, disconnects, and yeah, for example, that. And, or I don't know, like the match is over and the team captain had forgot to take the screenshots of the results and like report them. So, and that's a little hint I want to give. The thing we developed there will be tested during the group stage, definitely for some matches. We are not quite sure when to release it because, I mean, it's still in the development phase, and communications with other parties still to be done. But it's really something I cannot wait to put out there because it really could affect not only our way of hosting tournaments, but affect the way everyone is hosting his tournaments. So that's a pretty big thing. So.
Yeah, that's a major part, no?
Yeah, it could get one major part, of course. Yeah, surely. And probably even some tournament organizers would consider to even switch their platform in that case. So yeah, so that's all the hints I want to give.
Yeah, that's more than enough, I believe. I'm looking forward to the official announcement. Do you know what sort of date and or time period we're looking for?
Nah, not yet. We have still to make some tests and also test it with real matches. And then, of course, communicate with the other parties what they want to have and what we are looking for. So there's still some communication to be done. And, of course, once it's released, it's not like the full project. It's still then a development project. Like, there's still stuff to consider in the future for more features and stuff like that. So at TrackMania Masters, I think we could not only take a major role as tournament organizer, but also as tournament backhand. I would say with that project, but just simply having the power over that project, which could affect others. So we could, I think we have the potential to partner up with every other tournament organizer there is just because of that one project.
Huh. Damn, boy.
It is. Yeah, it is a really big one, indeed. And yeah, let's see how other tournament organizers will react to it. I know for a fact there will be one tournament organizer who will be damn happy about that one.
You want to name it?
Project.
You want to name them?
No.
That's fine. We are.
I guess that will be also maybe then not another hint, but maybe probably already the spoil.
Oh,
I don't want that to happen. So.
I guess we wait for the official announcement then.
Yeah.
We have already broken the limit or the record of the longest podcast now, but is there anything else you want to add to this? Yeah, it goes fast, man. But is there anything else that you want to add and give a highlight to? Like you said, you are having a sleep schedule that you can be up for 3 more hours. If you want to talk for 3 more hours, I'm here. So hit me up if you have any more topics you want to talk about.
No, I think the most important stuff we already covered. Like, of course, a little bit about me. Then what I work on TrackMania Masters to some degree. What our plans are for the future. What I think about other tournaments. No, I think we covered like the very most part. Or maybe I can think about something.
Sure, go ahead, man. I'm up for anything.
No, I don't think there's quite something. Maybe we can get like a game crossover at some point.
Yeah, the good thing about not covering everything is that you have the possibility of coming back here and then talk for 2 more hours.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Nah, I mean, maybe we can get some game crossovers at some time.
What do you mean by game
Like-
crossovers from Nations Forever to Stadium 2, or?
Yeah, not only that. So, but maybe also get some other games involved. Like Trackmania players don't necessarily all just play Trackmania only, right? So there are guys who are really good also in Counter-Strike. I know for a fact Massa is pretty damn good in Counter-Strike. So, yeah, and there are also other players who are really good in League of Legends, and maybe also other guys are really good at Rocket League, and yeah, just stuff like that. Maybe we can have a fun tournament at some point with the Trackmania community in other games. I think that would be quite some fun thing to have.
Huh.
Maybe, but
Yeah. That could also be an introduction for Trackmania fans like myself who don't watch too many other games to actually get introduced to those games.
yeah, and maybe it would also create another opportunity for the Trackmania community to present themselves, right? Like catch people, get people into Trackmania through other games.
Huh.
Would be a new approach, and maybe we can actually get some guys. Of course, it would not be like the main way to get some new people involved, but still better than nothing, or not?
Yeah. Everything is worth a try. So yeah, you have anything else, or I'm running out of questions, so you have to keep the conversation going now.
I don't think so. I hope that the Trackmania community stays the way it currently is, with two big streamers in Riolu and Spam. They're currently putting a lot of effort into the streaming. I hope that the hosters stay the way they are. They are doing quite some good work. The video producers do a lot of stuff. The developers alongside the way give us always some new exciting stuff along the way to just try out as players. Then Nadeo, I hope Nadeo keeps pushing the communication towards the community. They have started with the TrackMania Grand League now. And yeah, I hope that the current state stays and just gets bigger with the way it's currently going. I can see that. So I'm extremely positive towards it. And of course, to all players, I hope you stay in the community and keep playing this awesome game.
I guess that's the perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for stepping up and doing this long podcast. It's surely been a pleasure to have the inside look to your head and your way of thinking in Trackmania.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here, to get invited by you.
It's not the last time. It's not the last time, man.
Yeah.
Normally, people who speak a lot normally comes back on the podcast on a later date. Example, Softy B himself.
Yeah, for like a little update or something. I guess.
Yeah. When you have the announcement and then we see the progress of that announcement, and then every event organization wants to be part of your team.
Yeah, or at least work with us together.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get an update on that, because I think that's a pretty big project, and I want to see it. I really want to see it used by every tournament organizer.
Yeah, surely then. I want to cover the stories, and I want to give attention to the things I think is taking place in the game, and that if there is a major story, you will be back on. So thanks for stepping up this time, and good luck in first of all, the Team Cup, and then with the big projects.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, guys.